The memory of a real event survives perhaps 3 centuries at best, as the historic figure is assimilated to his mythical model and the event itself is blurred into a category of mythical actions. That profound observation by the scholar Mircea Eliade really sets the stage for our entire journey today. I want you to imagine a world that's been utterly shattered, a landscape where the absolute, literal truth of history has completely decayed into silence. The only thing left behind? Myth. Because myth, it turns out, was the only vessel, the only encrypted code strong enough to carry the memory of a devastated world across millennia.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're stepping right into the dark, dusty aftermath of an ancient cataclysm. We're going to explore some truly compelling evidence from our source texts pointing to a surviving elite, a deeply shadowed group of architects who slowly and with cold calculation resurrected humanity from the ashes. So, let's dive into this and witness the painstaking reconstruction of our world. Part 1. The Silence After the War. I want you to picture a funereal scene. An earth scorched, broken, and completely silenced. We're looking at a devastated landscape left in the wake of what ancient Babylonian epics describe as a literal cosmic war between the figures of Marduk and Tiamat. And according to our sources, this absolutely wasn't just some mythic struggle of fantasy monsters. It was a dimly recollected memory of an interplanetary conflict that blasted the infrastructure of an incredibly advanced, high civilization right off the map. All that was left were primitive tools and these towering, silent megalithic shadows. Now, while the general population largely perished in this cataclysm, the text suggests that a deeply knowledgeable elite somehow survived, perhaps by retreating to the heavens to wait out the sheer destruction. But when they returned to this ruined world, they faced a monumental, almost impossible task. They had to jumpstart civilization from absolute scratch, with literally nothing but the silent, rotating cosmos above to guide them. Section 2. Rebuilding the grid of the world.
So how exactly do you rebuild an accurate system of global measure when all you have are primitive tools? Well, you look to the sky and you look to the earth. These early architects used the relative constancy of the stars and geodetic phenomena, meaning the actual geometric shape and math of the earth itself. They created these massive, precise alignments between sacred sites like Giza, Heliopolis, and Letopolis. They essentially overlaid a celestial map right onto the dirt, turning the region into a vast sacred site mapping, a gateway to the stars near Sirius and Orion. They were building a unified physical grid of survival. Let's break down the chronological rollout of this incredible recovery phase. Right after the war, according to the Enuma Elish, Marduk set out to measure the structure of the deep. And that wasn't just ancient poetry, it was step 1. They had to measure local space. Then, and this is mind-blowing, they anchored their units of weight and volume to the literal mass of the Earth itself, a truth hidden right inside the Sumerian base 60 mathematical system. This was absolutely crucial, because it allowed them to introduce highly accurate units of measure for international trade. Suddenly, you could buy and sell over huge distances without even needing to see the merchandise. That is how you jumpstart a global civilization. Part 3. The Rewritten Myths. But here's the thing, physical trade routes just weren't enough. We have to shift our focus from commerce to the psychological control and preservation of knowledge. Look at the stories handed down to us. On the surface, you get the literal reading, right? Human-friendly, simplified bedtime stories of gods fighting dragons and throwing thunderbolts. But beneath that, an encrypted memory. Back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, as modern physics was really taking off, inventors like Nikola Tesla realized these ancient Babylonian and Assyrian texts might actually be describing scalar physics, advanced energy waves, frequencies, the destruction of actual planets. The myths were hiding highly sophisticated science.
Our sources define this brilliant encryption as a unified intention of symbol. It was a deeply deliberate act. The surviving elite knew for a fact that they had to preserve their scientific and historical data across millennia of painstakingly slow recovery. So, they encoded all of this knowledge into multi-layered archetypes and symbols. It was like a giant time capsule, waiting for the day when mankind would finally reach a parallel stage of technological development and decode the truth. Section 4. DNA as the last monument. Now, let's move to something even more profound. What if human genetics itself is an esoteric artifact? Look at the bizarre consistency across these completely isolated ancient traditions. Whether we're talking about the Sumerian Anunnaki, the Hebrew Nephilim, or the Babylonian accounts of Belus and Tiamat, diverse ancient cultures from all over point to a highly sophisticated biological intervention. They leave behind these faded, holographic-like memories of engineered, chimerical beings, essentially genetic hybrids. It's a biological record left right there in the ruins. The ancient Atrahasis epic actually narrates exactly why this happened, and it reads like a modern labor dispute. Step 1, the gods, meaning the surviving elites, are facing excessive, literal killing labor trying to excavate the ruined world. Step 2, the worker class, the Igigi, declare a strike and threaten open civil war. They complain, the load is excessive, it is killing us. And so, step 3, an absolute cold calculation is made to edit terrestrial hominid DNA, using the blood of a god to engineer a chimerical workforce capable of carrying that heavy load. Part 5. The Custodial Order. So who exactly was managing this massive planetary recovery phase? Both the ancient texts and the megalithic structures point to these shadowed, incredibly ambiguous figures, an astronomical and astrological priesthood operating with cold calculation from behind the scenes. They were the hidden hands. They controlled the new weights and measures, they controlled the commerce, and they controlled the religions that held the fractured human psyche together. Our sources call this shadowy group the Paleo-Ancient International. And listen, they weren't simple heroes, and they definitely weren't mustache-twirling villains. They were a deeply ancient, scattered network of traitor astronomers bound by a single, millennia-distant goal: to painstakingly raise up human civilization so that one day, way down the line, humanity could return to the stars and reclaim its former cosmic glory. Section 6. Echoes in our cells. And this brings us to a haunting, revelatory conclusion. One that connects those ancient, dusty ruins directly to our modern existence. Just think about the sheer scale of this survival plan. The invisible geodetic grids mapping the stars. The ancient legends rewritten as encrypted survival data. The reduction of terrifying historical truths into simple archetypes. And our very own chimerical biology. All of these are interconnected remnants. They are the artifacts of a deliberate blueprint, brainstormed by our ancestors in the face of almost unimaginable cosmic peril. Which leaves us with a chilling final thought. As the scholar Umberto Eco suggested, our ancient ancestors were faced with the great peril, and they encoded a warning into the very foundations of our civilization. If all of human history, our myths, our architecture, and our very DNA is a meticulously crafted message, what do they so desperately try to tell us? And perhaps more importantly, looking at the state of our world today, are we finally ready to decode it?